Fans, we are live on thehannibaltv.com with a very special edition of the Great North Wrestling Podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling, and I am pleased to welcome a Nitro Girl, a performer who most definitely made her mark in WCW as part of that group during one of the hottest, if not the hottest periods in the business. And of course, I'm talking about Chae Marsh. Chae, welcome very much for coming on today.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you so much for having me.
I'd like to sort of begin by asking about your familiarity with professional wrestling prior to being involved in the Nitro Girl group, and whether or not you were a fan growing up.
Everybody knows Hulk Hogan. You don't have to really be a wrestling fan to know the name. And my grandfather used to watch wrestling, but again, it's not something that I just thought it's just what my grandpa watches, right? But again, Hulk Hogan was a household name at the time. So if you were to say Hulk Hogan, I would know. But I have to say that I grew up like my high school and my college years in Savannah, Georgia, and then I moved up to Atlanta to cheer for the Falcons. And through the Falcons, that's how I got the opportunity to try out for the Nitro Girls. So once I made the Nitro Girls, I went back to Savannah to visit some friends. And at the time, one of my best friends and her boyfriend, her boyfriend was actually managing a sports bar, and she worked as a bartender at the sports bar. So as we're having catching up, and I told, they were asking me what's going on. I said, Falcons, and I also tried out for this dance team. It's for some wrestling show. I think I want to say like, I don't know, maybe TNN, TNT, called Monday Nitro something. And they looked at me, they said, "You mean Monday Night Nitro?" I said, "Yeah, how'd you know?" They're like, "What do you mean, how do I know? That's how we make our money on Monday nights at our bars."
Wow.
So apparently, yeah, that was like their biggest night at their sports bar, is watching Monday Night Nitro. And I had no idea. And from there, I kind of had an idea, maybe I'm onto something, but I quite wasn't sure exactly to the extent that it ended up being.
So, in terms of your relationship with Kimberly Page, I read in the research that you actually, and this may or may not be correct, but you met her at the famous Main Event Fitness Gym, and that sort of segued, or is that incorrect?
Actually, I think at the time it was Spice, Melissa, and AC Jazz Amy. They were members at Main Event. And so they both knew Kimberly well. And when Kimberly started on this project, she knew immediately who she should go to, because at the time, Melissa was a dancer at Life College. And she knew that Amy was an ex-Falcons cheerleader. So she immediately went to Amy and Melissa. And I think she actually had in her mind already to offer them two of the positions, Amy and Melissa, and without them even trying out, because she knew that they were in the dancing industry. They were both dancers. So from there, I think Melissa, since she knew a bunch of dance studios, and then Amy, knowing a lot of, still having connections with the Falcons cheerleaders, told Kim that, let me put together some auditions for you. So I was in the audition when Amy reached out to some of the Falcons cheerleaders and said, "There's an opportunity for dance team, is traveling, it's on TV." And at the time, again, I didn't know what it was. And so Amy ended up putting together a tryout of the Falcons cheerleaders for Kimberly. So, but until that, so the tryout was at Main Event, and it that was probably my very first time at Main Event, going to Main Event. So that's kind of how it all came about.
What did the tryout process itself entail for you, and was it a multiple shot deal, or could you walk us through that, please?
No, I think it was just like a one day event. And typically with any kind of dance tryouts, what happens is there's always a choreographer, and the choreographer, she would teach maybe a couple minutes worth of dance routine. And then after that, the people that are trying out, they have some time to practice and whatnot. And from there, they immediately go into trying out either by pairs or individually in front of the person that is, looking for talent. So I think it was like a 1 day thing. And I want to say that Kim, going into it, she was brilliant in this, that she knew what she was looking for. And at the same, and around that time, as you know, boy band and girl band groups were big, and Spice Girls were, it was like the main female group. So she knew going in, she wanted different um, personalities, in not only in personalities but in the looks, and obviously, and I have no problem saying this. I'm sure she was looking for a token Asian girl. You know what I mean? And it's okay. So she really wanted to just kind of make sure that she catered to the whole audience group. And luckily I didn't really have that much competition in that. So I think going into it, I was little, I think it was fortunate for me, it's because going into it, I don't, not, maybe there was maybe another one or two other Asian girls, but and having Falcon as a ground also, I'm sure, helped me even before I auditioned for Kimberly.
Mm-hmm. Aside from the concept of a dance troupe, how when you became involved in the audition and there afterwards, the immediate aftermath, when you found out that you secured one of the positions, what was the Nitro Girl group pitched to you in terms of fitting into the WCW product at the time? How was that?
At the time, I can honestly say that I went into it blindly. I had no idea what it really was. All I knew was that it was a live wrestling show. And actually, Kimberly invited me to come down to one of the Monday Night Nitros, and it was in Macon, which was about, I want to say, not even an hour and a half south of Atlanta. And when I went there, that's the first time that I really got the sense of what it was. Okay, there's a ring, there's arena. Look at these, really enthusiastic, passionate fans out there, and that's when I kind of realized, okay, it's kind of like Falcons, right? But instead of dancing and entertaining on the sidelines, I am in the ring or on the little catwalk. And so that's kind of when I knew what it was. But I, at the time, and when I went, I just saw it. I just saw an arena full of people. I didn't realize in small town of Macon, I didn't realize that was pretty much a national thing or even an international thing because it was being syndicated all over the world. So I knew what it was, but I didn't know what the magnitude of what it was, until well into the process. Because after that, what happened was we went down to Orlando. No, we went down to Daytona because that's where I think the pay-per-view Bash at the Beach, I think is it in July. So
Yes.
that's we went down there, and we went down there about a week early. We were rehearsing, practicing, and just kind of really bonding as a group. Even so, then I didn't know what it was. Um, and I remember going to the hotel, and we all had a minivan. Kimberly was like the mother hen. And we all, got to the hotel, and we parked the van, and we're walking into the hotel, and we turned the corner, and the front entrance of the hotel was just mob of people, yelling Kimberly. And it's just, with pictures for people to autograph. And I can tell you, if I would give money to see what my face was, my jaw probably literally dropped to the floor. We're like, what is this? Like, we really didn't know what it was. We honestly did not know what it was. And so from there, the show Sunday night, and then Monday the following morning in Orlando is when we debuted.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I don't know if you remember, they played Nitro back to back. So we did our show, and then we came to the hotel, and then we watched the show together, the repeat of it, and that's when we just kind of sat there, thought, this is kind of big, you know. Yeah.
So when you commence your role and you see the reaction to it, the fans just loving it, really taking to the group right off the start. Did you have any conception from the management side of the house as to what their plans were ultimately for the Nitro Girls? Because I did read that at one point there was even a separate Nitro Girls show being considered. Is that accurate?
I am not sure, but let me tell you. So, one of the things that really needs to be shared is us together as girls. I'm telling you, I mean, it's been 20 plus years since, and I have not in, since then have met a group of girls that are more just solid as this group of girls. I mean, all these girls were professionals in their own rights. Um, Tigress, she was with Deloitte and Touche in accounting, and and she's now a senior vice president of finance for Truist Bank. And as you know, Terry she is the president of a college campus. So it just so happens that the group of girls that Kimberly put together, and I'm sure, if she didn't look at that part of the resume, right? But it ended up that we were such great, solid group of people individually, and we came together as professionally, and we just really, so we didn't, so our world wasn't this whole entertainment, because as you know, with entertainment and also wrestling, people dream of being in the spotlight. People dream of being on TV, or people dream of having the you know being the match of the night and things like that. But for us, we were a group of women who truly loved, were passionate about entertaining and dancing on top of our other professional resume. So we didn't really go into it thinking, oh, now that, we're so popular, so we should get more, we should deserve more. We always knew we were like the dessert of the whole evening of the entrees, right? We weren't the main event. We weren't the main entree. We weren't even the side dish. We were just something extra on the side. And we really honestly just kept that um, we just kept humble. We just stayed humble throughout the process. And because of that, I don't know, we just really stayed to our role. We didn't demand, we didn't expect, and we just felt blessed to be able to have the opportunity to really travel the world and create memories and friendships. I mean, as corny as it may sound, it was just really wholesome, to be really, I mean, one word to really put it is, we were very wholesome in the whole experience. And we never got too big we never got big heads, and we never demanded more than, what we knew our place, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah.
In terms of the man who is credited as being the father of the Nitro Girls, Eric Bischoff, just wanted to know what your relationship was with him, and if you had any sort of notable direction from him, or involvement in your performances.
Eric, I think Eric was just very, I mean, he was the boss, right? And he was very unapproachable because of his position. And he had to deal with, big talents like Hogan and Macho Man and Nash and NWO. So we just knew that he just had bigger things that to deal with than us. So we just knew that our boss was Kimberly. And I don't even really think that we, other than just saying hello, just kind of passing at the shows, I don't even think that we even had any kind of one-on-one, or I don't even think that, I don't remember ever really just even being validated by Eric, because he just had much bigger things that he had to focus his energy on. But he was always nice. I mean, our interaction, though very little, was always pleasant and short, very short.
Mm-hmm. As I mentioned off air, I've had the pleasure of speaking to a couple of your coworkers, and I do get the sense that the stars sort of aligned with a disparate group of professionals coming together, and there was that cohesiveness. But with the amount of TV time that the Nitro Girls were getting, did you sense any sort of and pro wrestling being a very competitive
Right.
business, did you sense any animosity from wrestlers, for example, because of all that attention?
I can't speak for other girls, but I can speak for myself. I never did. It's funny because just like anywhere else, whenever there's like a big new group of girls come in, it's like fresh meat, and boys will be boys, right? And there were some, they were like, they try to connect with you in whatever way that they can, see if they can, get a weekly flavor or monthly flavor out of, some of us and whatnot. But again, because of who we were, and because we just instantly bonded, and we had support group in each other, that we just kind of stayed to ourselves. And I think once the boys realized that, okay, they're not your typical kind of, because they're used to, I don't, for the lack of a better way of saying it, I don't mean to demean the fans, but they're groupies, right? They're female groupies. But they just knew that we just weren't gonna be their flavor of the week or just their weekly girlfriends or anything like that. But once that was established, they honestly like really took on a big brother role to all of us. And not to mention with us, all of us got, with our contract, we got a couple rental cars, and then we individually got hotel rooms, which a lot of the boys did not get. Most of the boys did not get. So what we would do is, I mean, why are we going to have two beds in one room and one person sleep in it? So we would stay together and then give a couple of the free rooms to the boys. And once we kind of established that, we really became a family. And they, so when it's like, we took care of them, and in return they took care of us. And whenever we're just driving from house show to house show, which can be, it's not the most safe to be out there for car full of girls, and then the boys really did take on that big brother role for us.
Absolutely. A fan on social media wanted, you kind of touched on it earlier, you were there with some of the biggest mega talent superstars that the business has ever seen,
right?
Such as Hollywood Hogan, Nash, Hall. Did you have any sort of notable interactions with them that would separate the rest of the wrestlers that you deal with? He was asking about your relationship with the mega stars of WCW at the time.
Right. So a few. I mean, number one, so I'm not sure if you remember, but we did I guess for a couple of years, the pay-per-view at Sturgis. And it was really fun because what Eric did was, from the Monday night show in Denver before Sturgis. And what he did was he went and got a couple tour buses, a couple semi trucks full of mechanics, and the boys, whoever wanted to, would join in with their Harleys. And then we would do this cross cross country from Denver all the way to Sturgis, and we took a week. They planned it out where we would go from here, point A to point B, spend the night. Hotels were taken care of. From there, we even stopped at Cody, Wyoming, and Eric entertained us at his house, at his cabin. And from there, we somehow, ended up in Sturgis. And it was amazing because he had a couple tour buses where if you wanted to ride, you can ride as long as you want. And if you got tired, you just stop at the next stop, and the boys would put your bike up for you in the semi, and then you just hop on the tour bus. So the first one that I did, and because of this, I actually learned how to ride a Harley, and I had a Harley myself. Yeah.
Wow.
And in the first year, Hulk Hogan and his whole family came. So I got to really know Linda and Brooke and Nick, and got to just really hang out with them when they were little tiny. And hang out in the bus with Hogan and Linda. And so it was like whole week of like family vacation, so it was great. And it's really nice to see Hogan away from his persona in the ring, being a father and being a husband. And it was, it was a huge treat that I feel blessed that I got to experience, because not many people get to see him, outside the ring, right? And that you realize that he's a dad and he's a husband, aside from being Hollywood Hogan. And then and second, and I'm sure your fan might be in a roundabout way of wanting to hear about, and of course I'm sure everybody knows, you can research it online, about my relationship with Kevin. And it started off as a friendship, and we were both in relationships. He was in a marriage, and they separated legally, and then I ended up breaking off my relationship. And from there, since the friendship was established, we just kind of came together in a way to support each other through our respectful breakups. And from there, friendship obviously turned into something more, and we really did, we really were solid support for each other for a couple of years. And it was such a blessing to me, because I never had to really worry about my safety or my well-being, right? Because, whenever, if we had to drive anywhere, what better security or what better person to be on the road with than somebody like, Kevin. And he was like a big kid. Everybody knows him, again, just like Hogan. They don't really see them outside of the ring, but he is very security conscious, very nurturing, very caring. And it was a great couple of years of just really hanging out and getting to know him. And obviously, and life happens, and we went our separate ways. But we're still, very, we're very friendly. I run into him once in a while at signings and stuff, and we have fond memories, and we always make sure that each other is doing well.
That's yeah, I wasn't aware of the extent of that situation, but yeah, it must be a really intense experience when, especially during that time frame of the business, when you're a part of that show, and from the highest highs to in the industry, you must bond with a lot of the boys, which kind of leads into this question from a fan saying which wrestlers you got along with great and which wrestlers weren't very nice.
Obviously, Conan was great. Ray was great. We had a show in San Diego, and we got to hang out with Ray and his family, and met the wife and the little son. And Conan was always, I can honestly tell you, I mean, I'm telling this right now. I never had one negative experience with any of the boys, not one.
Mm.
They, you don't understand, like behind stage, they're so respectful. They were so respectful. Again, I'm speaking just from my experience, but I really don't remember any of the girls having any bad experiences at all. Um, and like we had funny, encounters with Rick Flair, but who doesn't? You know what I mean? After a couple, cases of beer, like, but there's a lot of really fun stories. But I can honestly tell you that without a doubt that never in any negative interactions, nobody being disrespectful, and I think also too, they also know that once they knew that we're not there to take their spotlight. And obviously, I mean, I don't know why anybody would think a female, I mean, unless it's, I mean, unless it's wrestler like Medusa, but like, somebody like our side, I call ourselves like side talent, right? We're not the talent, we're the side talent. And once they realize that we're not there to really take their money or that they're, you know, their spotlight, they just realize that we are there to help the show that they're in instead of take anything away from them.
Yeah, and again, that seems to be consistent with the two other Nitro girls that I've interviewed. That
Mhm.
nothing but positive relationships with the wrestlers, which is really cool. Wanted to get your memories of the pay-per-view that they participated in, the swimsuit calendar special, and the what I understand to be the original vision of that project, and then how it turned out. And some folks weren't entirely happy with that from concept to execution. Is that correct?
Um, so I, I'm sure not many people know about this, but the format was different. So it was Ricky Rackman, myself, and Melissa. We were the so Ricky Rackman was the host, and Melissa and I were co-hosts, and we were the ones that was kind of creating bumpers in and out of different segments of different girls and their shots and their videos. And it was very playful. It was very light. Um, and it was just very it's just something that it was for the whole family, right? um and then after we shot that, there was, I don't know who, maybe somebody or some more than one didn't like it, and then we had to shoot it all over again with all of us in there.
Mm.
And we were given kind of the setups and things to talk about and the format, and it kind of erased it up from like friendly G to more borderline like PG-13 R.
Mhm.
So obviously Melissa and I, we knew what the original content was going to be, original feel. So it's again, it's something that we can't really raise, we can't push back on. We have to go with what the company wants, but or the higher um, being. But it was definitely disappointing for Melissa and I. But I'm not sure if the other girls really knew what the other, what Melissa, myself, and Ricky Rackman had taped. I think only the top office people saw it, and then they decided to change the direction and involve all the girls, and there were some innuendos and just more stuff that I know that I have a 15-year-old daughter that I don't want her to watch it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, and I have 13 and 10-year-old boys. The original content, I can definitely let them watch it. And because bikini shots and videos, those were fun and flirty, but nothing bad. But the in between content, it was so much more fun when the original. So yes, so that was, you heard right.
on to a universally positive experience, from what I understand, and that was your memories of working on Ready to Rumble with David Arquette. And in addition to your memories of that, did you have any, or are you surprised that this film has turned out to be such a cult classic?
I don't know cult classic, but I have to tell you, I mean, I can show you. I just got my residual check for Ready to Rumble. We get it once in a while. I mean, it was nice in the beginning,
Mm.
and it's funny because like I got one check for I think $8, and then I just got the second check for $5. And I was just telling my husband, I can take us out we can share a Happy Meal together.
Not
But
even.
but obviously it's been what 23 plus years, and if it's somehow still getting the clicks and the views, and I mean I think it's also because um what I noticed when I started, lately when I haven't done signings in a while, but from the signings that I did, like five within 10 years of in the Nitro, versus the signings that I've done in the past 3, 4 years, is I feel like 20-year mark is a good mark where things become very nostalgic,
Mm.
right? Because when you're in your college and you were the college kid, watching Monday Night Nitro, or in high school, you kind of grew up, and then 20 years later, you're fully into your adulthood. And when you watch our show, it brings you back your childhood memories. So it
Mm.
becomes very nostalgic. I mean, that's why, like, when they do Friends remakes, it takes about 20 years for people to redo certain things because it becomes so comforting and nostalgia. Um, so it's been fun. Um, so again, I'm sorry, I just kind of lost the train of thought, but
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's why the Ready to Rumble is still kind of out there because people it's like they want to just escape from everyday to day adulting and just watch something mindless and something that makes you feel like you're 18 again.
On the set for you, was that an interesting angle of the entertainment industry that you experienced, or were you one of these people that just didn't like to be in that 16 hours on set waiting for a 5 minute shot or something?
we I can honestly say we just didn't take anything for granted. um, it was an amazing experience. So I think for about a month or two, instead of us being flown out from our home base, our home base was one of the hotels in LA. And I mean, we had one same room for like 2 months. And between the shows, that's where we would go back, and then we would go on set. Yes, we'd sit there and wait, you know, hours and hours. And back then, we didn't have our smartphones, so we didn't really have anything to entertain ourselves with. Um, but I think because of times like that, we became even closer because there was a point in time that we saw each other more than we saw any of our family members or significant others or even husbands, for those who were married. And what's nice about us, the group of girls, is friendship, family is by chance, but friendship is by choice. So when you meet somebody and you hang out with them for a while and you realize, okay, you know what, I don't really vibe with them. So you just in the friendship, you don't either return calls, you start hanging out with them. But with us, even if there were differences, we didn't have a choice but to still be together, still work together. So you just kind of make it where you just kind of realize, okay, even though we may not like agree on certain things, we have to agree to disagree and accept, really truly accept the person for the things that you don't align with, that you might not agree with. So really it became, I think it really that's why we became so close. It's because we accepted each other for the things we liked about them, obviously, and especially for the things we didn't like. And I think that's kind of what's going on in this world, is because people are, especially with social media, they're so quick to, make and break away from relationships just because you don't really give it a chance to go beyond, push yourself beyond what you dislike about them and learn why they are the way they are. Because if you understand why they are the way they are, then you can really understand, okay, now I know why they feel that way, instead of saying, I don't like the way you think, or I don't like
Mhm.
what you just said,
Mhm.
and that's why even 20 something years later, we're as close as we are. I try to see like Vanessa, Tigress, and Terry and Melissa, and even Charmel, at least once a year. I was out in Charlotte visiting. I stayed with Tigress, and I saw Terry and Melissa last around over Easter, and then I'm going back out there for Super Bowl. So I'm gonna stay with Vanessa for about no, Terry for about 3 to 4 nights. So and they're like my sisters because we're beyond family and beyond friends, you know? Yeah.
That's
We're like married couples but that don't live together.
that's
Maybe
tremendous.
that's why it works.
Yes, yes. In terms of when the Nitro Girls, okay, you started off as a dance troupe, and then the Nitro Girls started getting integrated into storylines, even getting into the ring. What were your thoughts on that? And is it your understanding that that was a Vince Russo
It was
idea?
completely Vince, right? He needed to revitalize. He just needed a shock value because obviously he came in because things kind of weren't going as well, and he needed something. And I think it was like a cheap, easy way, instead of really digging into why people watch wrestling. People really want watch wrestling. We were just the cherry on top. We weren't, people were there for the whole banana split. You know what I mean? They weren't there for the cherry on top. And
Mhm.
instead of really kind of working on what was wrong within the storyline, they just kind of wanted this shock value. It would be same thing. It's like a clickbait, right? We just kind of became throwing us in and out of the storyline and having us, interact in a negative way. Because here we are, we're all smiling and dancing and whatnot, and all of a sudden we're, pulling each other's hair and heck, getting into cat fights, and it was
Mhm.
just a cheap, easy way, which obviously didn't work, and it really created a negative work environment for all of us because we felt like, what if you don't want to wrestle? And then a lot of the girls ended up having to go to power plant,
Mhm.
and and Medusa, give them a pretty good, you know what I mean,
Mhm.
training, and it just they just kind of like, this isn't what we are. We're not really wrestlers, but at the same time they were afraid to speak against it
Mhm. Mhm.
for job security.
Mhm.
Yeah. But for me, I was really blessed. I was lucky because I do know, I think it was one of the, maybe to one of the writers or maybe at a meeting, Kevin basically went up and said that Chase Bag is not going to never going to touch the mat, as in, don't throw me in the mix of being a wrestler. And I'm from the original. I'm the only Nitro girl that stayed, kept my dancing shoes on till the very, very last Nitro, which is, in Panama City in 2001.
Mhm. As a fan watching that at the time, it just didn't seem to be, it didn't seem to mesh, and I thought, as other fans have commented, if the concept isn't broke, then don't try and fix it. So yeah, it definitely in line with what Mr. Russo has put out there in the past as well. In terms of delineating down to a favorite, um, aside from the great relationships that you have with the rest of the troupe, what would you say would be your favorite WCW moment per se?
Um, there's so many, but I guess it's going to Australia.
Mm.
Because I mean that's not many people get to go to Australia, right? I mean, people go to Europe and whatnot, but Australia, it was pretty it was very memorable. And what was so memorable was here I am. I mean, we traveled pretty much 24 hours from here to LA and then 12, 13, whatever flight to, I think we went into Brisbane first. When I got out of the baggage claim and I'm rolling out, I feel like I'm in a whole nother world. And there are people calling out my name, and they knew who I was. And that was like a really surreal moment because even when back in the States, whenever we do any kind of promotional appearances, things like that, we were treated really well. The company treated us very well. I mean, we had PR person that made sure that all our needs were met from the minute that we got off the plane to the hotel, our meals, limo rides here and there. We just always never felt like what's such a big fuss with us. We always felt that way. But so going to Australia and getting off the plane and people knowing me by my name, I really felt like, it felt nice. It felt nice. Um, that's probably like one moment I remember. But as far as the best part of the whole experience is lifetime of a friendship, and even I guess in a cheesy little way, somewhat of legacy for me. You know, even being sitting here and talking to you 23 years, 22 years later, like, okay, somebody still wants to know what my experience was, and you, even if it's just you without the audience, wanting to know what my experience was, even something like that, I feel like, it, I feel like I just really, um, I don't know. It's very humbling. It's very humbling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, no doubt, and the fact that it's not just me or this audience, but the wrestling fans as a whole, really remember the Girls fondly. Given your talent, your presentation, and that really incredibly hot period of the business, I think that speaks volumes. I wanted to ask you though, is it factual that the Nitro Girls never broke up, so to speak, but were discontinued when uh, WWE purchased WCW? And second part of that question, was there ever any consideration, to your knowledge, of using the Nitro Girls in WWE in some form?
From what I was told, Vince McMahon never liked the Nitro Girls, and it wasn't even a discussion or even consideration to bring us to WWE or WWF at the time. And I want to say, because we were approached by some businessmen later on to maybe create some kind of like a classic toys or something like that, made something like that of us. And I think and they did some research on who still owns the name Nitro Girls and whatnot. And we found out that we were told that pretty much soon after the company was bought, Vince either did not renew or drop, the trademark. I want to say Nitro Girls trademark. I mean, he obviously kept the nitrogirls.com, things like that. But as far as other things, he just kind of let anything that has to do with Nitro Girls really go. And he didn't, which goes to show you that he was not planning on monetizing beyond what was already archived.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, much like the handling of the whole WCW invasion, in my opinion, one of the biggest botches in the history of pro wrestling, in my opinion. Trav wants to know: is there any chance for a Nitro Girls reunion documentary or a social media account dedicated to the group?
I think there are some individuals that just kind of have like individual Instagram, where they just, I don't know where they find these photos, but um, where they post some photos here and there, but there's nothing really substantial, I don't think. Everything's kind of scattered, just individuals kind of doing something, but there's not um, any media or any bigger entity that is doing or interested in doing anything that's substantial enough. But again, we always say that any opportunity that we can get where all of us can come together, and we're totally up for that. But I don't know if I'm sure it takes a lot, and I'm sure it also has to have somewhat of those, whoever comes together to decide to do anything, they have to know that there's somewhat of a demand for it to make their time and their resources worth a while. But I'm not sure. But I know individually we have our own social media accounts. I know, like Vanessa, she's like a senior, I want to say she's like senior vice president of, oh gosh, I forgot her title, but she's pretty high up there. And she just doesn't really get involved she doesn't even do any kind of signings. I mean, we've done a couple of signings in Charlotte, which is her backyard, and she's always kind of turned it down. Um, but I know that if it's something that whole group comes together, I'm sure we can rally up.
Yeah, I'm convinced after doing these interviews and research, there's more than enough material for a documentary of some length. So if the folks at the WWE Network or Peacock or whatever international version are listening, give that some serious thought. Here's a really interesting question from a fan on social media. Wants to know, and I was completely unaware of this, but you were used in the WCW NWO Thunder game and what that process was like for you.
Oh, that was great. I think, wasn't that like early on? I want to say it was pretty early on in the Nitro Girl process. Um, it was just, it was very simple for us. It wasn't anything too involved. I think they just kind of came and took our body scan, and that was it. And then we kind of got our royalty check from it. I remember it being pretty decent, where I was able to use it for down payment on a car. But other than that, and our contract wasn't very good, I have to say. It was just very general. We didn't get, we just got our entry level talent contract, and and we did try. I guess there is one story. After our first year, we did try to better our contract the second year, and we were pretty much told um, from Eric through Kimberly that he can find other dancers. Which, I mean, which is valid, So we said, okay, we will take our paid travels and, once in a lifetime opportunity of traveling. We'll take that, and, with our best of friends traveling. So yeah, it was fine.
Interesting though, given how popular you were, that sort of cavalier attitude would apply in some aspects of WCW. There was no limit to the money, and he did have the nickname ATM Eric. But in something like this, you'd want to invest in. But that's why he's the person that he was running that company. And
well, but at the same time, girls, I feel, I, I mean, I think guys, through wrestling and through storylines, they emotionally invest into a character, whether, because they can relate to that person, or something about them they love, or something about them they just despise. So they connect emotionally to a character. But with girls, as you know, I mean, think about it. That's why, like NFL, you know the players by names, but you don't really know, the girls by faces. But if a few of them swapped out, and really to Eric's point, you dance, right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't really emotionally, you're just like eye candy,
Mm.
so one day you're enjoy some Snickers, the other day you don't mind eating Milky Way.
Well, that's an interesting analogy. I never
Yeah,
thought of it
yeah.
like
So
that.
so we know our place. We know our
Mm.
place.
I think a lot of fans would disagree with you, but notwithstanding that, do you think that an attractive female dance group could work in either of the two big companies, the WWE or AEW, given the focus in the past, I don't know, going into 10 years on, female talents as, wrestlers, work rate, et cetera, and de-emphasizing the attractiveness component? Do you think that could fit into the landscape somewhere today?
Oh, I do. I really do. I think it's in the fiber of our culture. Think about it. I mean, starting, you know, middle school, high school, they're cheerleaders for football teams. They're cheerleaders for basketball. They're cheerleaders, in professional NBA, and they're cheerleaders in NFL. So yes, so whenever you bring a lot of masculinity and a sport, it is nice to have that kind of just softer part of a sport, right? That is pleasing to the eye. So it just kind of caters to both. It just really caters to your general male population, I feel like. My only thing would be that it's one thing if after when Vince bought WCW, if he would have kept the Nitro Girls, and and he could have just taken the name, and he could have came up with his own group of girls. It doesn't have to be us. But if he would have kept it, then and the way you do it is you just kind of change girls out regularly. So nobody really ties themselves into one. They just kind of, with you just kind of create this thing where there are gonna be new girls coming on. So really they're just kind of there for visual pleasure and eye candy, and you don't really emotionally really, I like this girl, I like that girl. You don't highlight their individual personalities where a person really actually follows a girl. So so if you would have done it that way, it actually, you could have continued to have seen dancing girls in the ring, right? Um, but I think since, because he stopped it abruptly, and now 20 something years later to start anything like that over, I think it's going to be compared to wannabe Nitro Girls. So I
Mm.
don't know if it would work, but I mean, they definitely missed out on something that could have been a staple, because I mean, why not? I mean, if you really want the wrestling to be mainstream, like other male sports, like football, they're cheerleaders. So here's wrestling, keep the dancing girls.
Mhm.
And I think it could have been a staple thing, and that people expected to see, and that people actually enjoyed. And you could have sold some calendars, like Cowboys, Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, they sell, calendars. Could have been that. But now I think it would be, you would have to go through some initial time of people talking about it being like wannabes and whatnot, and try to kind of get over that stigma to make that the established you know part of the industry.
Yeah, for sure. Can we talk about now about your current entrepreneurial endeavors? And I read that Diamond Dallas Page gave you an excellent piece of advice in terms of business.
He did. So I came up with a concept. It's a product. It's a bag organizer out of necessity from traveling all those years. I just never just was able to find, because with girls we carry a lot of stuff. So I was never able to find like a really good organizer and then tie that into motherhood. I have 3 kids raising toddlers and infants. I was really frustrated, and I actually came up with a great concept, and and made a homemade version of it, and then I used it, and I told myself, okay, I really want to share this product with the rest of the world and help other moms or other women, or not just, it's not gender specific, to get organized better. And but I knew that with me not having any manufacturing background, if I had an idea, I wanted to make sure that if I could get a utility patent on it, then I would consider it. Because if not, somebody can just look at it that's already in the mark, that already has a manufacturing contact. The product would be out on the shelf even before I can, start my first piece or create my first sample. But so I applied for patent and I got it. It's utility patent, which is, pretty solid. It's not like your design patent. I own it for 20 years. So what I wanted to do was, but me not knowing anything about manufacturing, I wanted to get on Shark Tank to see if I can connect, so that way somebody can just take my idea and hold my hand and take off. So I want to say, I can't remember who. I think it might have been Ross Foreman that connected me with Paige. It's because it's been a while since I spoke with him, and I was telling him about, is there any contact you have? How did you get on Shark Tank? And what he told me was, he said, as Paige is, he empowered me. Like, why do you need other people to hold your hand? If you're passionate, pretty much, if you're passionate and you believe in yourself and this product, you just have to set the fear aside and go for it. Why are you giving your great idea that obviously is great because, you got a utility patent on it? It's unique. There's nothing like it out there, obviously. And why do you want somebody to come in and do the things that you could probably do on your own if you really put your mind to it? And then on top of it, give them percentage of the company that, that hard-earned money that you made, So yes, Paige was great. And he pretty much, it's like, even if I could help you, I won't, because I believe that you can. And of course he turned me onto his documentary, which, he's like, watch it, and is inspiring, and he's doing amazing things. So yes, so I had a great interaction mentorship from Paige. And yeah, and I'm still working on it. And it's just, being a mom and having 3 kids, and they're into so many sports and activities that it's been in the back burner. But I am actually now really trying to be more proactive on getting the product just launched and developed, and put my time and focus on that a little bit.
So where can the fans that want to follow your endeavors keep up with you on social media? And do you have a website for your pending product, or any of those contact details, please?
So about 2-3 years ago, I did do a Kickstarter, which was successful. But at the time, because of all the supply chain issues that we had post-COVID, I just could not find a manufacturer to just deliver the product at the time that I needed them to. So I ended up refunding all my supporters' money, and I had to just kind of sit back and start all over. And and then in that time of starting over, I've changed the name a little bit, and I'm actually like learning more instead of just kind of I'm actually doing more in teaching myself about the industry, kind of like what Paige said, teach yourself. Don't go with somebody because they tell you that they know what they're doing. Don't put your eggs in that basket and somebody else's, then it becomes their basket. You know what I mean? And you're just So he just said, you have to learn the business. And that's what I'm doing is the past 2-3 years, I've been really learning about manufacturing, about what it takes to design, what it takes to source products. And that's what I've been doing. So I do have from the Kickstarter time a Instagram. And at the time, my bags were called Ring Along, but now I changed it to Click Bags. And so I do. So there's Instagram, it's Click Bags, and then I have my personal one, which is Chae_Marsh, and also I'm trying to kind of build my presence in the social media, and I feel like the experiences that I've had, and the older you get, you trade in your youth for knowledge and wisdom, and raising 3 kids and being a wife now for 16 plus years. I feel like there's a lot that I can share, and I call it. So I started like another Instagram, but I have 0 posts on it. I actually started it like maybe about a week ago,
Oh,
and
wow.
I call it.
Oh, you went on mute, Chae. We've lost your sound. Yeah, strange. You're on. It says your mic is not connected. Batteries die. All good. No, you're still muted. That's very, very strange. Well, you know what we'll do, Chae? Oh, you're back. You're back.
Now you're muted.
Really? Can you hear me now? No?
Nope, here we are. Can
You
you
can hear me now. Nope. It seems like we could hear you a second ago, and then boom. Huh. Interesting. Let me try this one more time. You know what? I'll remove you from the
Wait.
There. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
Who knows with StreamYard, and sometimes these technical issues happen, but you were saying that you had a new Instagram and you started it about a week ago and then we lost you. So if you could catch it up from there, that'd be great.
Okay. So I came up with this idea because when I used to sign my autographs, I would always put peace, love, and happiness on there.
Mhm.
So now I call it peace, love, and sanity, because because really it's about trying to keep your sanity every day, raising kids and just kind of adulting, right? Navigating through life. And I felt like there are a lot of things that I have a lot of aha moments with, and I love to listen to podcasts and different things. I just have a lot of epiphanies, and I'm like, gosh, I really want to share this with other people. So I started it, and it's called Peace, Love, and Sanity. I don't have any posts up yet, but one thing about me is I do really well in groups. I have no problem entertaining, giving you everything that I got, as long as I got my girls with me, But when it comes to just, putting a spotlight on myself, I just have really hard time putting myself out there without my my comfort blanket, you know what I mean, without my little support. But I do want to push myself, and I do feel like that. I think what we need in culture in this society is to share more of your personal journeys, because a lot of people feel for some reason, even with all this, maybe because of the social media, people feel so alone. They
Mhm.
don't feel like they they're good enough. They feel like what they're going through is specific to them, and they don't realize that there are other people that feel the same way you do. There are other people that struggle the same way you do. And I want to bring the awareness to it that people are alone. And I want to create a platform where I can be authentic. I can tell you my day sucked today because of this. And it's okay. You don't always have to be perfect, you know, and but at the same time, you know, I didn't have a bad day, but this is what I did to bring myself out of it. Because as you know, I mean, like even with as recent, you know, a couple years ago with Daphne, like I had no idea. You see her, she was always so sweet, and you would have never thought that she was quiet, but you would have never thought that she was fighting so much. You know, she was hurting so much internally. And I just feel like we need to be okay with letting other people know that sometimes things don't go the the way that you want, and it's okay, and be able to share it. Not so much always shared your smiley faces. And as you know, I don't know if you have kids, but I mean, taking Christmas photos with your 3 toddlers, you know, you take 100, you come up with 1 photo that's like all smiles, and you know that there's 99 where like you're pulling your hair out. Like I feel like people should share those photos, not the smiley ones, not the vacation ones, but the ones where, you know, you're struggling you know, because you didn't have the kind of day that you wanted to, or because your kid reacted in some way, or something happened to your kids at school, and and you're concerned. And I just feel like we should be more authentically ourselves. And I want to start a platform where I can share my authentic self, good, bad, and the ugly. So, but again, I haven't. You know, again, it's kind of one of those where I'm like, what if people don't like it? What if you know? There's that
Mhm.
fear of rejection. Even after everything that I've done, you know, people would never think, okay, you're shy. I'm like, kind
Mhm.
of.
Mhm. Mhm.
Fear of rejection? Yeah, a little bit, you know. But
Mhm.
again, I think there's power in sharing. So yeah.
Well, Che, we'll keep in touch, and please share the information as to your business endeavors and other as they develop, and we will definitely let the fans of the Hannibal TV know that. But I really want to sincerely thank you for your time today. It certainly was a very interesting conversation, and wish you nothing but the best of luck in your future projects.
Thank you so much, Jack. I really appreciate it.
Well, fans, that's it for this edition of the Great North Wrestling Podcast with Che. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you'll keep up with all the content, such as this, the quality content that we have coming on this channel in 2024. But until then, take care, everybody.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews